Of Heat 1, we're witnessing the opening ceremony, the official opening ceremony of Shawfield Speedway, and that's Councillor Bernard Campbell of the Planning Committee, who's been so much help to the Tigers in introducing them here to Shawfield, lining up with the 261 Tigers to perform the ceremony. Let's hope the scissors work okay. There we go, that's Shawfield officially opened, and the 261 Tigers are underway, racing in a few moments. Of the first ever race at Shawfield Stadium, the 261 Tigers versus the Novaphone Monarchs, and the riders in the first race, that's Les Collins we're looking at in gate 4 there, his partner Jeremy Luckhurst just coming up, they're the Novaphone Monarchs. On the inside, the captain of the 261 Tigers, Steve Lawson, and his partner in gate 3 in blue is Martin McKenna. The winner of this race, of course, will be the new track record holder at the new track, and this is it, the first ever race at Shawfield Stadium. And it's Steve Lawson from the inside, Les Collins on the outside, and Lawson's gone to the front, Collins second and Jeremy Luckhurst in third. Collins striving to find some grip to catch Lawson. Martin McKenna tailed off at the moment, and Steve Lawson pulling out a lead over the Edinburgh #1 Collins. Steve Lawson, king of the Tigers for so long, and a great start for him. Fairly well clear now. Track riding well, looks smooth. Les Collins maybe making up a bit of ground there. That's 3 laps gone into the final lap. Les Collins not all that far away from Steve Lawson now. I think Lawson's going to do it. Les Collins, a tremendous burst on the final corner, and it's Lawson by half a length. A tremendous start to Speedway at Shawfield. A great bid on the last corner there by Les Collins, but it's Steve Lawson winning the first race for the Tigers, the 261 Tigers. A great race, and that is Speedway, Shawfield style. Here's Doug Wire out again, and we wonder if Doug's managed to solve the machinery problems that brought him to a halt in Heat 4. His partner will be Scott Lamb, who fell off in his first ride, caused a bit of a problem for his partner Branford, and the opposition for the 261 Tigers coming from Steve Lawson, unbeaten after 2 rides, and the track record holder of course, and his partner Martin McKenna. And Martin will be a bit disappointed with the way he went in Heat 1, so he'll be looking for a better ride. From the inside, it's Doug Wire, Steve Lawson, Scott Lamb and Martin McKenna. Inside men, Lawson swinging wide, but it's Doug Wire who goes to the front with Scott Lamb inside him, the 2 Novaphone Monarchs out front. Steve Lawson trying to come through from the back, he's past Doug Wire there. Wire fighting back on the inside, Lawson swinging wide, and it's the Novaphone Monarchs back in front. Tremendous racing. Scott Lamb, tremendous dramatic improvement since his first ride, and here comes Steve Lawson on the inside, and he's taken them, he pushes them wide, and where have the Monarchs gone? Steve Lawson's through to the front. Doug Wire in second place, Scott Lamb in third. They were completely taken by surprise by Steve Lawson's tremendous burst on the inside there. And Steve Lawson's the man they once said couldn't come from the back. Great riding by the Tigers #1 and captain. And this will be Steve's third win for the 261 Tigers. A brilliant victory. The Novaphone Monarchs split it. Spirited effort by Doug Wire and Scott Lamb there. Martin McKenna at the back again. A 3-all there. 21 now to the 261 Tigers and 15 to the Novaphone Monarchs.
Now to heat number 13 with Kenny McKenna in red, Shane Bowes in blue, Craig Boyce in white, and David Miles in yellow and black. Wilson, starting marshal, just settling down the riders, checking that an even start and they're up to the tapes. Starting marshal's job very important in all these meetings, of course. He's the eyes and ears of the referee down on the track. A nice clean break. And out in front, Kenny McKenna. Second place is David Biles, who's trying to come under Kenny McKenna, and I thought he almost had him there. And Kenny has indeed doesn't in this race so enough at all. The rider in yellow for Echo Pirates, David Biles, chasing hard after the Tigers' leading man at the present moment. And yet another tumble, this time in the fourth bend, and down this time comes Shane Bowes. But as you saw, he was immediately back up on his feet and obviously unhurt. You know, the race continuing down the back straight there. The track staff managing to clear both bike and rider off the track in time, and the referee quite satisfied to let the race carry on. The race carries on with Kenny McKenna in first place and David Biles chasing, with Craig Boyce in third in white. Coming into the last bend now, it seems to be fairly settled that Kenny McKenna will take the 3 points for Glasgow, with Craig Boyce and David Biles taking the 3 points between them for the Echo Pirates. That 3 points puts the progressive totals now at 33 for the 261 Tigers and 44 for the Echo Pirates. The 261 Tigers, it has to be said, really struggling now, and the backs totally against the wall. It looks like a forlorn hope here to take a win from tonight's meeting. We always knew it was going to be tough, but my goodness, aren't the Pro Pirates putting the Tigers through the middle here. And just to illustrate the point, in heat number 14, right to the front goes Steve Bishop and Gary Allen for the Pirates, while Phil Jeffrey and Jack Snervin are left to chase them forlornly at the back. And in fact, Jack Snervin has dropped right out of the race after rearing at the start there, and it's left to the number 7 man, Phil Jeffrey. Both the Pool Pirates looking over towards each other. They know exactly where each other are sitting on the track, one taking the outside line and one the inside line. Perfect team riding, the idea being of course to give no passing opportunity to the Glasgow Tiger behind. You can see he's sitting there close enough to with the power to pass, but because of the positions that the two Pool Pirates take up on the track, they effectively shut the gate and leave no passing space on the track. So it's Steve Bishop and Gary Allen easing themselves round the track, keeping their eye on each other's bikes, one taking the inside line and one the outside line. And this looks as if it's going to be another comfortable win for the Pool Pirates, which will indeed sew everything up, and 2 National League points for their team tonight. And as we expected, Martin McKenna, now en route to the Victoria Hospital, Glasgow. His place taken in this race by Shane Bowes in the red helmet. His partner is the other reserve, Phil Jeffrey, with Barry Thomas and Chris Louis providing the opposition. Getting a very good break there, Shane Bowes, closely followed by Chris Louis, and the third slot man, Barry Thomas. Chris Louis snapping at the heels of young Shane there, and he's going to do very, very well to hold on to this lead, because with the two Hackney men ready to pounce both on the outside and the inside, he's going to have all his wits about him. And in fact, Chris Louis decides to take the outside line and sweeps through to take the first place, leaving Shane in second, with the Hackney man Barry Thomas in third place. Chris Louis stretching the lead, but the second place slot by no means settled. And in fact, the action again at the back in this race is fast and furious. Shane Bowes has managed to open up a slight gap, but there's still an exciting tussle going on there between Barry Thomas and Phil Jeffrey. But the final result is a win for Chris Louis. So it's heat number 13 with Kenny McKenna up against Andy Galvin again, and I think we could see another close one, as we saw earlier in the meeting there. The two partners on this occasion are David Blackburn in blue for the Tigers, and Andy Galvin is partnered by Paul Whittaker. Nerves settling down at the start, because the break's going to be important here between Kenny McKenna and Andy Galvin. And who's going to make it this time? Well, Andy Galvin rears and loses the advantage in the first bend, which allows Kenny McKenna to streak into first place, but immediately Andy Galvin comes right back under David Blackburn and begins the chase after the Tigers man in red. Andy Galvin favouring that inside line in the back straight again. Seems to be a tactic to take the inside line and then immediately switch to the outside for the third and fourth bends. And he's certainly much closer to Kenny McKenna this time than he was in the previous race when the two of them met in Heat 11. And this is some battle here in Heat 13. No wonder the crowd standing on its feet cheering this one. This is Speedway poetry. You can see as the bike kicked there, the effort that Andy Galvin's putting into chasing Kenny McKenna here, but it's just in vain. Kenny McKenna hangs on at the last moment and takes the line. David Blackburn in red, Wayne Ross in blue, Daz Sumner in white, and David Clay in yellow and black. Middlesbrough side, winter swoop to snatch Daz Sumner from Stoke is already looking money well spent, and the Manchester-based rider insists that there is even better to come. One of the most colourful characters in the National League. We hope that he settles down and we know that he will produce some fine racing and some fine points for the Middlesbrough side. However, making the break in Heat 9 is David Blackburn and his partner Wayne Ross, and they are chased by the man we've just spoken about, Daz Sumner. David and Wayne here settling down to some very nice team riding, considering the fact that the two have only seen each other in last week's match and tonight's match. You would thought they'd raced together for a long time, both watching each other closely, and you can see by the positioning of the bikes in the track there that Daz Sumner is going to have one difficult job to get round the two of them. David glancing over just to see where his partner is, takes the outside line, while Wayne Ross keeps on that inside line and keeps the door tight shut. The very essence of team riding displayed before your eyes there, and it brings the reward for Glasgow. Evening for Kenny McKenna in red, David Blackburn in blue, Daz Sumner in white, and replacing Ashley Norton in yellow and black, it's Andy Buck. Bikes rearing as they hit the first corner there, and first to show is David Blackburn in blue, second place in Daz Sumner, and chasing hard in third place Kenny McKenna. After his form this evening, it's unusual to see Kenny back there in third place, missing the break on that all-important first corner. You can see the efforts of Kenny McKenna there, annoyed with himself at losing out on this last race of the evening for himself, and he's really chasing hard there, but not making much impression on the leading two at the present moment, who are still David Blackburn and Daz Sumner. Kenny McKenna still leaning that bike over to some incredible angles there in the back, and having another run in the outside line here where the dirt's piled up. And although he's fairly close, he's not close enough. The win in arriving at the line for the racing in Heat 12 is Steve Lawson in red, Wayne Ross in blue, Steve McDermott in white, and Rob Grant in yellow and black. Steve Lawson for once missing the break there, sitting at the present moment in second place behind Steve McDermott. The third spot being held by Rob Grant. He's been untroubled up to now this evening, skipper Steve, but he has it all to do here in heat number 12, and he does it just as I say that. Coming under Steve McDermott, but Steve McDermott fights back into first place. Skipper tries again down the inside. Into the first and second bend and makes the break, which puts him in first place. Still marching on his way for maximum possibility tonight. Steve Lawson in red, second place in white, Steve McDermott, and third place in yellow and black, Rob Grant. 261 Tigers and 5 for Berwick Bandits, 41 to Glasgow, 43 to Berwick. 2 heats to go. This is heat 15. Can Kenny McKenna make the first maximum here at Shawfield? Kenny McKenna in red, Dave Blackburn in blue, Steve McDermott in white, and Rob Grant in yellow and black. Kenny McKenna in that favoured inside spot again. Can he make the break for the first bend? Indeed he does. Well, look at the lead that Kenny McKenna has already. There was talk among the riders who would make the first maximum here at Shawfield, and it looks as if Kenny is determined that he's going to be the one. There's still the possibility that Skipper Steve could do it too, and that would be 2 in the one night. But again, in this race, as we had the previous race, an excellent tussle here for the second and third placings. A tussle this time between David Blackburn and Rob Grant. There's always been an affinity between Glasgow and Berwick off track, but when it comes to racing on the track, there's no quarter asked or no quarter given. And that can be seen in some of the fine races we've had here this evening. One of which is taking place right in front of your very eyes here between David Blackburn and Rob Grant. Rob takes the inside dive here, and down goes Dave Blackburn into the fence. Now, what's the referee's decision going to be on that occasion? Kenny McKenna wheelies over the line, totally unaware of what's happened behind him, and indeed the referee's decision is that he adjudges Rob Grant to be the cause of that accident and has excluded him, awarding second place to Dave Blackburn and third place to Steve McDermott.
A real smile. Show your teeth.
Come from to support Steve Lawson tonight.
Yeah, Clydebank.
Do you know how long Steve's been with the Tigers?
10 years.
Who's the highest scoring Tiger?
Of all time? Oh, it must be him,
Yes.
Steve.
Do you think he's good for another 10 years?
Oh, maybe not 10, another 5, I'd say.
Thank you.
He's 30 now, you know.
His testimonial tonight.
Yes, definitely. He stuck with them through all these ups and downs and bad times. Yeah, I think he does.
For the first time here at Shawfield, it's a 6-man race, 6 laps, so this should be spectacular. The riders lining up at the gate from the inside. Steve Lawson in red, Kenny McKenna in blue, Les Collins in white, Brett Saunders in yellow. In black and white it's Mark Fiora, and on the outside in green it's Doug Wire, and what a mass start. And it's Kenny McKenna, the unbeaten man during the match, going to the front. Steve Lawson slots into second, Mark Fiora third, Doug Wire just passing Les Collins for fourth. And that means that Brett Saunders is the man at the back, just out of the picture. Kenny McKenna, paid maximum during the match, leading the way in this 6-man, 6-lap final. Steve Lawson pressing him in second place. Mark Fiora in third. And Mark Fiora making ground on Steve Lawson. Steve Lawson making ground on Kenny McKenna. It's about 3 laps, 6 laps remember this race, so it takes stamina as well as the usual speed and skill. Kenny McKenna now starting to pull out a lead. And after 4th place man Les Collins is now quite a gap. There's the first 4. That's second man Steve Lawson there, the testimonial man. Riding as well as ever, beautiful style. But Kenny McKenna's well in front. And the last man Brett Saunders now about half a lap behind Kenny McKenna. Kenny's flying. And he celebrates with a wheelie. That's 6 laps. Kenny McKenna wins, Steve Lawson second, Mark Fiora third, Les Collins fourth, Doug Wire fifth, and Brett Saunders, also celebrating with a wheelie, comes home in 6th place.
Heat 13, still holding that lead. Glasgow track on this occasion, Kenny McKenna in red, Dave Blackburn in blue, Andy Hines in white, and Eric Monaghan in yellow and black. The Tigers pairing on this occasion could just bring in the big 5-1. It might make the break. It would put the match beyond, or more or less beyond doubt. But some very, very determined riding from this Mildenhall Fen Tigers team. As you can see there, as Eric Monaghan bursts his way through into 2nd place. And if Dave Blackburn doesn't watch it, he's going to come under severe pressure from Andy Hines there at the back in white. An excellent race here in 2nd and 3rd place as Eric Monaghan and Dave Blackburn challenge and re-challenge each other. Kenny McKenna in his usual spot up ahead there, well clear. And it's another fine win for Kenny McKenna. Dave Blackburn losing out slightly there as he made that charge on the 4th bend and having to drift wide, holding a 4-point lead. Surely the 261 Tigers can take the league points here tonight because we have skipper Steve Lawson in red, Wayne Ross in blue, Andy Hines in white, and Eric Monaghan in yellow and black. The Tigers only need 2 points from this final heat 16. And after saying that it's only the 2 points that the Tigers need, look what's happening here out in Heat 16. It's the Fen Tigers who are holding the 1st and 2nd place, despite a strong challenge here by Steve Lawson to move into 2nd place. He's still sitting in 3rd, and his partner is way back in 4th. So come on, Steve, it's up to you if the Tigers have to take the 2 points tonight. But the bike rearing and bucking all over the place. The Eric Monaghan in 2nd spot there still holding the Tiger skipper out. Andy Hines looking fairly secure up in 1st place, but it's all about this 2nd and 3rd spot, and it's a vital 2nd and 3rd spot in Heat 16. It's the difference between winning 2 points and losing 1 point, because if it sits like this till the end of the match, it's going to be a draw. And oh dear, what a disaster for the Tigers. They are throwing it away in the last heat there. 1 to the 261 Tigers, 5 to the Fen Tigers, and that ties it all up at 48 points apiece. Leads us straight into heat number 2, where we have Jackie Irvin in red, Shane Bowes in blue, Wayne Elliott in white, and John Roberts in yellow and black. The 261 Tigers tracking a change team tonight. Steve Lawson, the captain, at number 1, Gordon Whittaker at number 2, Kenny McKenna at number 3, and coming into the team tonight in place of Wayne Ross, it's Phil Jeffrey at number 4, Dave Blackburn at number 5, and replacing Jeff Powell, who has also lost his team place, Jacko Irvin at number 6, and Shane Bowes, the man in blue, at number 7. The reserve race proving to be a tight little competitive affair here, and a helmet cover coming off there, and it looked like Jacko Irving's, and of course you realise that nowadays that can cost the rider a fine. Helmet covers must be securely held in place or they incur the wrath of the referee. So it's Jacko Irvin, although he's in a yellowish type colour, who's actually in the 1st place, and a very, very strong competition for 2nd place, finally won by Shane Bowes, coming through into the 2nd spot there. Jacko Irving appearing to slow and take the wide outside bend there. Possibly he was just looking for his partner there to join up and do some team riding. But I was just about to say, if he's not very careful, he could lose that spot, and indeed he did. But Jacko's straight back under, and in fact knocked Shane Bowes across the track. My goodness, this is a tough and competitive little race. But Shane Bowes comes in first place, and just making it to the line there is Jacko Irvin, and third place John Roberts, and fourth Wayne Elliott. 12, and it's skipper Steve Lawson in red, Phil Jeffrey in blue, Glenn Doyle in white, and Mike Spink in yellow and black. Mike Spink in yellow and black, holding the first place as they went into the third and fourth bends, but under severe pressure, and in fact overtaken by skipper Steve Lawson, and just as I say that, also overtaken by Phil Jeffrey in blue. So it's looking good again for the 261 Tigers. I'll say at this stage that the match is well over and done as far as the 2 points are concerned, but the standard of racing tonight, I must say, has been excellent, and some very good competitive stuff for the Long Eaton Invaders. It certainly belies their position at the foot of the table. But in heat number 12, stretching out the lead now is skipper Steve Lawson, and a fairly comfortable second position. It's another very improved man, Phil Jeffrey, for the Tigers. Glenn Doyle in white holding down the third spot at the present moment for Long Eaton Invaders. So that's another 5-1 to the 261 Tigers, and they now move on to 48 points, with the Long Eaton Invaders standing at 24 points. Settling down now for heat number 10, where the riders on this occasion are Steve Lawson in red, a tactical substitute in blue, and it's Kenny McKenna; in white, Brevin Eriksson; and yellow and black, Darren Phillips. Ian Steele throwing everything into heat number 8 here to try and pull back some of this lead that the Wolverhampton Wolves have picked up at this stage. Playing his two big cards, Steve Lawson and Kenny McKenna, and isn't Kenny McKenna fighting here for every inch of this Shawfield track? There he goes now, and as he goes, down comes Brevin Eriksson. Now, what really happened there? It'll be interesting to see Phil's slow motion recording of these incidents later on, but it looked to me as if Kenny just clipped Previn's front wheel as he passed there. 13, and it's Kenny McKenna in red, David Blackburn in blue, Sam Ermolenko in white, and Darren Phillips in yellow and black. And just looking infield, there's no sign of Dick Barry yet. Where have you put him, Neil? Well, like the Kenny McKenna we know, makes the break in the first and second bend there, and the chase taken up by America's number 1, Sam Ermolenko. David Blackburn in blue, snapping at Sam's heels there. Certainly making use of every inch of the Shawfield track. Sam Ermolenko, he's had inside lines, outside lines, and straight up the centre. Here he comes in a run again on the inside line, trying to overtake Kenny McKenna, and it looks as if he's got the drop as they head into the first bend. And he certainly has. What a classy rider. And there it comes, the familiar wheelies as they come over the line there, as Kenny McKenna shakes his head in disgust there at allowing Sam Ermolenko to pass him. And not forgetting the man in third spot there, David Blackburn. Speedway Sam. Sam, you actually started your motorcycle racing career in motocross. What made you decide to switch to Speedway?
Well, I started in motocross in '75, and it was going great for me, but I had an unfortunate street bike accident going to work one day, and it kind of disabled me for a couple of years. And when I came out of recuperating from that, I went straight into Speedway after I was watching it for about a month and a half. I bought a bike and started up.
And caught the bug.
Yeah.
Thankfully for our Speedway supporters. 1984 saw your appearance in the British League Racing for Poole. What did you find were the biggest differences between the American racing and racing here in Britain?
Well, obviously one of them is the bigger tracks. We have a lot smaller tracks in the States, and it's a bit more prestigious here than it is in the States. It's more of a show. They really go for the entertainment. It's really close contact sport, I would say, compared to racing here. And I'd say the equipment had a lot to do with it. And in those days, the dirt surfaces in England were a lot different. So it was grippier, bigger, and you needed stronger motors. And obviously the gates were real important compared to the States.
Yes, yep. Your own form, Sam, in fact, that of your fellow countryman is fast approaching the world-beating standard set by the Americans when Bruce Pennell was around. Do you think you're back in a position to mount a serious challenge to the Danes on a team basis and also to Hans Nielsen yourself on an individual basis?
Well, I feel very confident on the individual side of it. As far as the team effort goes, I think we still need to improve in a lot of ways, and I think most of the boys on the team feel the same way. And I think we've over the last couple of years, we've set back in the back scenes and taken seconds and thirds in some of the big team events, and I think we're hungry now again. And I think it's going to come together this year. It might take a couple more years to get it really down packed, but I think America will definitely come back.
Expectedly, a tactical substitute coming in place of Chris Cobby. In the white helmet on this occasion, it's Rob Tilbury. His partner in yellow and black is Simon Wostenholme, while the home pairing is Gordon Whittaker in red and Jeff Powell in blue. Forcing his way around on the outside there, the tactical substitute seeming to pay off, and Rob Tilbury forces his way to the front in the white helmet, and the chase being taken up by Gordon Whittaker in red. Nice little contest going on at the back there for the third and fourth spots between Simon Wostenholme and Jeff Powell. Being held at the present moment by Jeff in third place and Simon Wostenholme in the last spot. But he's having another run at Jeff here. Trying the outside, he's tried the inside in the third and fourth bend, and he's obviously going to try the big wide outside spaces here at Shawfield. And here he comes for another attempt, almost taking Jeff's back wheel away there. He's trying that favoured outside line again, and I feel he might just get it. Yes, he just got it by a half a wheel. That was it. So it's the Hans Nielsen match race number 3, and this time it's sponsored by Alex McDonald Car Sales, and we're calling it the Alec McDonald Scurry. And the opposition this time is the Tigers' top scorer this season. It's Kenny McKenna. Now, Kenny is one man we do expect to provide some opposition for Hans Nielsen because, as you probably know, Kenny has been doubling up in British League this year, and he's been mixing it with the big boys. Let's see how he mixes it with the world champion Hans Nielsen. Hans Nielsen's obviously been watching from the terracing tonight because he immediately shut the gate on that first bend here. He knows that Kenny McKenna has a habit of nipping through there, so he made sure there was absolutely no daylight whatsoever between himself and the white board on the inside line. And as you can see, even at this stage, our own Kenny McKenna struggling very, very hard to keep in contention with Hans Nielsen. He makes it all look so leisurely, and yet in the last race he beat the track record, and in the first race he was sitting on 66.6. The crowd here, although the Tigers aren't providing the opposition against Hans Nielsen, the crowd here are loving absolutely every minute of this. And up comes the front wheel again in celebration as the world champion Hans Nielsen wins the Alex McDonald Scurry. And his time on this occasion, we have a glance down and see that it's 66 seconds. Well, he didn't beat his own record, but he certainly equalled the old track record, having just established the new track record in the previous Dalfield Dash. Champion, it's a pleasure and indeed a privilege to welcome you here to Glasgow. Have you enjoyed your visit to Shawfield?
Yes, I have. It's a very short visit. I got here a bit late because of all the traffic. But yes, it's a very nice setup here. The track is good. Good for racing. Plenty of dirt on it. plenty of people watching here and a very good atmosphere. So yes, I enjoyed it very much.
Good. Hans, 21 meetings in 6 different countries in the month of June, and yet you still produce winning performances at each venue. How do you manage to stand up to the rigours of continuous travel and racing so well?
Well, actually it's 22 meetings, but never mind. Well, it's a matter of being organised from the word go. Before the season starts, really, you get all your equipment right. You try to get as fit as possible before the season, because during the season you haven't really got a lot of time to jog and play squash and things like that, which I do a lot to try and keep fit. And also you got to have a good mechanical team. I have like a few mechanics, tuners. I got backup from Godden Engineering who makes my bikes, and it's just a matter of being organised and try and be as healthy as possible, try to eat a bit healthy and try and keep the stamina up.
You actually led on to the question I was going to follow up with there, Hans, and that is in regard to machinery. Do you keep bikes in each country you race in, or do you have a stock of bikes? Just basically, what is your setup regarding machinery?
Well, I have a stock of bike. I send them a bit everywhere. I got 5 speedway bikes, 2 long track bikes. The long track bikes are in Denmark at the moment, well, on their way to France, because I'm riding in France tomorrow. But I got my 5 bikes in England, and when I ride abroad I just send the van abroad, and I have an extra mechanic in England that helps me while my full-time mechanic is away. So that is really the biggest problem. It takes a lot of organising. You got to book all your travel, and you got to get it to fit in together, and but we manage.
You manage. Hans, you and your fellow Danes have certainly ruled a roost in recent years. What is it that Denmark's doing so right that the rest of the world could copy?
Well, one thing I think we got right is 80cc class we got. We can start riding that when we 10 years of age now. It was 12 before. And that's on specially built tracks, only 200 yards. So really that's just like riding a 500cc on a big track. I think that's where we got the jump ahead. Sweden have got a little bit the same thing. They've started about 5 or 6 years with their 80cc, and you can see stars coming now from like the likes of Jim Nielsen, Per Jonsson, guys like that. That's one thing, and another thing I think is we have to come over here to work very hard to make it, and if we don't make it fairly quick, we can go back to Denmark again and not ride professional speedway anymore. So makes us a little bit more determined.
Yeah, that's good. Moving on to the World Final, Hans. Last year saw the introduction of the 2-day World Championship, and since you've no extra grind on the matter, what was your opinion of that formula compared to the traditional one-off?
Well, it worked out okay for me, but if it was over one day, maybe it turned out different anyway. But I don't really favour it. I don't mind more meetings, but I think we should have it more like a Grand Prix system, maybe 3 meetings in 3 different countries over 3 months or so. I think that would be better, but really you can't beat the one-night excitement, I think, in a World Final, although it can be a bit tough if one good rider have bad luck and if he's going really well, but you know that's the name of the game really. It's all on the night and you can't beat the excitement, I'm afraid. But although I do favour the Grand Prix system.
Grand Prix system, yes, yeah. Turning to this year's World Final, where do you see the main opposition coming from for against Hans Nielsen World Championship hat-trick?
Well, it's early days yet. We've got to qualify first. We've got to get through the Intercontinental Final, but it's hard to tell because there are some guys going really good now. They might not go so good by then, and then other guys start going good. A lot of riders have different stages, ups and downs during the season. So, but at the moment, if you look at it at the moment, you got the likes of Kelvin Tatum, Simon Week, Jano Petersen going particularly well. Sammy Malenka's got his good night. So. If it was tomorrow the final, I would say those are some of them.
Yes. Peter Jeffrey in white and Richard Green in yellow and black. For the 261 Tigers, it's David Blackburn and Martin McKenna. Sorting themselves out after the first and second bend there. In the first place it's Richard Green. The 261 Tigers finding themselves behind in the third heat of tonight's National League racing. And the chase being taken up by David Blackburn. But they don't need to chase because down tumbles Richard Green in the first bend there. And thankfully it just seems to be a slide rather than an accident there. He's up on his feet immediately, checks to see where the rest of the riders are and joins the race again. So that leaves the 2 Tigers, David Blackburn and Martin McKenna in first place there. But Peter Jeffrey still putting up a fight, and this heat by no means settled as yet. David Blackburn now doing the proper thing, glancing over just to check where his partner is, see if there's any danger there, and cover the outside run, while Martin covers the inside line, and thereby blocking Peter Jeffries at the back. But in the end, it's a comfortable win for David Blackburn, with his partner Martin McKenna taking second place, and running in for the 1 point for the extra Falcon, Peter Jeffrey. With heat number 12 bringing out Steve Lawson in red, Martin McKenna in blue, Rob Fortune in white, and Peter Jeffrey in yellow and black. Now they're settling and watching the inside locks, and as they rise, it's the skipper himself, Steve Lawson, who heads off into number 1 spot, leading heats number 12, and the chase being taken up by the man in the yellow and black. In second place, Peter Jeffrey. Peter just glancing behind there to see where his team partner is lying at the present moment, and he's fairly well behind, and he's actually been challenged by Martin McKenna at the back there. Martin making a strong challenge on the first and second bends there, trying to sweep underneath Rob Fortune. Challenging yet again in the third and fourth bends, and challenging just a rather bit strong there, because Martin ran into the side of Rob Fortune there as they were coming into the third bend. And yet another tumble here at Shawfield. Martin holding his hand there, appears to have injured his hand, and let's have a look over and see how Rob Fortune is, who came down there. I would have to say that, although it's a home team man, it was Martin McKenna exclusively at fault there. He was the rider behind, with Rob Fortune holding the line going into the third bend, and although he was maybe that bit slow, it was up to Martin to hold back or else take him on the outside, instead of which he cannoned Rob Fortune as they came in there.
9 points separate the four sides, and now we're looking at the brothers McKenna. Charlie of Berwick on the inside, Kenny, the 261 Tiger in gate 2, and definitely the master of Shawfield so far this season. Hot opposition here though, especially from Mark Fiora there in gate 3 in white, and Edinburgh's captain Brett Saunders is on gate 4. Forced very wide, and Brett Saunders came down on that first corner, and he looks very unhappy there. Got a bit of a knock going into that first corner, so this race will be stopped. As the restart, Brett Saunders unfortunately excluded. Brett did walk off after lying on the track for some time, and he seems to have an arm injury. So in the rerun we've got Charlie McKenna, Kenny McKenna and Mark Fiora. McKenna gates, and Mark Fiora a good start also from gate 3. Kenny McKenna cuts back, but he's back in third place. Tried to cut back on the inside on that first corner, but brother Charlie blocked him, so Mark Fiora's the man leading. And Charlie McKenna, I'm sure, will be determined to beat his brother, but he's left a gap there, just closes it. Kenny McKenna doesn't drop many points round here. Right on Charlie's tail. Inside again, and he's holding a tighter line, but not just quite squeezing through. Charlie just got the speed coming out the bends. Once again, Kenny McKenna clinging to the inside. That's the passing line here at Shawfield. Taking a wider turn that time, but still in third place. Mark Fiora takes it, and Charlie McKenna holds off Kenny, They'll be delighted about that. The inside to replace the injured Brett Saunders. He's got an arm injury. Rob won the reserves race. That's Daz Sumner in gate 2 for Middlesbrough, David Blackburn gate 3 for Glasgow, and Rob Grant on the outside for Berwick. It's one of the weaker races, but these races are equally important, of course. The points count just the same. And it's a good gate off the inside by Rob Woffenden, who was impressive in the reserves race. David Blackburn trying to come round him, and has he done it? It's very close going into that third corner, but Woffenden hangs on. Hard in there, swings wide. Woffenden leads after one lap. Sumner forcing his way through on the inside past Blackburn. Blackburn fights back, tremendous stuff. Woffenden thought had stopped there, in fact, but he's kept it going, but he's been taken by both Sumner and Blackburn. Woffenden swings back on the inside, but he's back to third. Sumner's pulled out a big lead. I don't quite know what happened to Woffenden there. Now he's pressing Blackburn again for second. Big win for Daz Sumner. David Blackburn second and Rob Woffenden third. So another good one for Middlesbrough, and they're halfway to Peterborough already.
Of tonight's National League match, can I just explain that the reason for the missing rider, the rider in yellow and black, in fact Terry Mussett, had machinery problems and failed to beat the 2-minute time allowance, so we have only 3 riders in Heat 2. The 3 riders are for Glasgow, Jeff Pearl in red, Gordon Whittaker in blue, and the sole representative from the Wimbledon Dons, Ray Morton, in white. And from 3 we go down to 1 because 2 of the riders down on the track there, and the man who was initially falling was Gordon Whittaker, and I feel will be excluded by referee John Aglese tonight. The Wimbledon rider, Ray Morton, laying down there for safety, and he's the one who seems to have come off the worst. Heat number 8 we have Shane Bowes in red, Gordon Whittaker in blue. How much has that fall affected that shoulder of his? Still suffering a lot of pain from a damaged shoulder a couple of weeks back. The opposition is Andy Campbell in white and Ray Morton in yellow and black. Andy Campbell shrugs off a challenge there from Shane Bowes. A really ruthless look about that first corner from Andy Campbell there, determined to do business for Wimbledon. And there's some switching back and forward there in the second and third places. Shane Bowes and Ray Morton having a rare old ding-dong between them. Isn't it amazing the number of races that take place at the back of the leader? The leader seems to sweep away, but we always have tremendous racing at the back for the minor placings. And still Andy Campbell out in front there, and now having seemingly stamped his authority in that second spot and making it his own, Shane Bowes. And third place, Ray Morton. Gordon Whittaker trailing very, very badly at the back there, but the feeling that's because he's aggravated that shoulder injury again with that tumble earlier on, and he fell in heat number 2. So Andy Campbell turns on the styles and the wheelies as he comes across the line for heat number 8, a win for the rider in white. Second place, Shane Bowes in red. And in third place, Ray Morton in yellow and black. Heat 4, and it's a rider replacement. Steve Lawson coming in for what would normally be a programmed Kenny McKenna ride. He appears in red. His partner in blue is Martin McKenna. The Rye House pairing tracks in white, Steve Wilcock, and in yellow and black, Kevin Teager. And it looks as if the 261 Tiger skipper is responding to the challenge tonight. Already in the second race of this evening, he's showing top form. Right at the back there, as we often find, and we've often said this year at Shawfield, the most interesting racing seems to take place for the minor placings, and that's happening again here in Heat 4. Martin McKenna and Kevin Teager having a rare old ding-dong there, and in fact Kevin Teager loses it and tumbles to the track. Up on his feet and immediately remounts and rejoins the race, which is good to see. And that leaves Martin McKenna in a totally untroubled third place there. And in fact, his boss Jimmy Beaton telling him just to slow things down there, realising it's futile to chase the leading two, sit there comfortably, he tells him, and get that valuable third place point. So another fine win for the 261 skipper Steve Lawson in red, second place Steve Wilcock in white, and third place Martin McKenna. Heat 8, what's the action going to be in Heat 8? Shane Bowes in red, Jeff Powell in blue, Mark Linden in white, and Paul Woods in yellow and black. Mark Linden, the rider in white, with the two 261 Tigers taking up the chasing behind them, just sorting out between themselves who's actually going to do the chasing for first place. I must say, over the last couple of matches, Jeff Powell beginning to show some fine form. He's really got the bit between his teeth again, and I think maybe 2 or 3 matches back in the Tigers' colours would do him the world of good, and his confidence the world of good. In danger of losing that third place there as Paul Woods tries the outside line first of all, and that's all rather tight there in the third bend. I thought that was a bit of an optimistic challenge by Shane Bowes there on his partner to take for second place, but not the best of nights for Shane so far. The second tumble of the evening, and thankfully the second tumble of the evening where he rises to his feet and walks away from it totally unhurt, maybe just the pride. So that leaves it with a win for Mark Linden in white, in second place Jeff Powell, and third place now taken by Paul Woods. Pleasure to welcome the voice of Speedway to Shawfield. Could I ask you first of all how and where you first became interested in the sport?
Yes, that was in May 1948 at Poole, the first meeting that was ever staged at Poole Speedway. I was just a little lad in short trousers then, and it was a very famous meeting actually, because in the very first corner of the first race ever at Poole, we had a fatal accident, a guy called Reg Craven, a long time ago. So my interest in my baptism in Speedway was in a rather dramatic vein.
You're of course now known in the commentary world, Dave, and how and where did you first become involved in that side of the business?
Well, originally I was involved in journalism. I worked for the local paper where I lived in Bournemouth, and because really nobody else wanted to go and cover Speedway, and I had an interest in it as a fan, they said go cover Speedway. So I went to cover it and got to know the management rather than the way that Dick Barry's done here. And eventually they put me on the mic because really there was nobody else around. And that was in 1958 that I first actually spoke into a microphone.
You now, of course, are involved in television, not only with Speedway, but in ice hockey, and we've heard you commentating in several of those matches. What has this meant to your lifestyle?
I've been very fortunate in television terms. I mean, television, Speedway on television really has sort of transformed very much of my life for the last 25 years. I think now I've been fortunate enough to have worked in, I think it's now 35 countries. Curiously enough, it's the first time I've actually worked in Scotland, although I've been doing ice hockey and darts up here for several years. But this is my 35th different nation, and Shawfield, I think, was my 136 different stadium I've worked. So it's changed my life, yeah.
Dave Lanning, thank you very much. I, for one, am personally looking forward to picking up a few tips from the master. 7, and it's Kenny McKenna out again in red with his brother in blue. For the Federation Bandits is Rob Grant in white, and in yellow and black, Phil Kinman. A bit of sorting out there in that first bend as you watch the 4 riders and it's not all clear cut yet. Kenny McKenna seems to be out in front, okay, but who's going to take this second place? It's a ding-donger here between Martin McKenna and indeed the two Federation Bandits, who are coming hard after the youngster. Kenny's totally unaware of what's happening at the back there. He's well out of the trouble, but although Martin's still in second place, I have a feeling that things aren't just going to go all his way for the next 2 laps. Chasing hard there is Rob Grant, and those who know Rob Grant knows that Rob Grant doesn't give up until that flag drops. Big Granty all over the place. You can see the determination from here in his efforts to chase Martin McKenna. Granty knows how vital every single point is going to be here round Shawfield, but the crowd rise. They rise to Kenny McKenna in first place and his brother Martin McKenna in second place. With things all square and every point critical and every point still to be raced for, we have competing for the points here Shane Bowes in red, Martin McKenna in blue, Sean Courtney in white and Ian Stead in yellow and black. Again, that all-important dash into the corner there, and you can see the way the riders spread themselves out across the track there as they try to avoid the wet and sticky shale from the bike in front of them. Although the 4 riders in this particular Heat 14 are making a real go of it. And didn't you see that spray flying there again, and that's number 4 bend. Heat 14 turning out to be one of the best races of the night as the riders still compete it. The placing certainly not decided as they fight to control the bikes on this really very messy surface. You can see at the back there Shane Bowes struggling hard there to control the bike. The bike was, instead of just sliding out the way, it's trying to slide in the way and out the way and all over the place. When you have a look at that, when you try and identify who's in front place there, you've got to wait till you see them at the back. And of course in first place at the present moment is Sean Courtney. Martin McKenna in second place in blue, and in third place in yellow and black is Ian Stead. Ian Stead making a determined try around the outside there as Martin lifts and is all over the place there, coming in just over the line and just manages to hold on for that vital second place there. In the red helmet for Glasgow, David Blackburn. In blue, Martin McKenna. In white for the Stoke Potters, it's Nigel Crabtree. And in yellow and black, our first opportunity this evening to see one of the new National League Pairs champions, Steve Bastable. And see him we do as he leads out David Blackburn, but under strong pressure from David. David on his home track and on a dry track, which suits him down to the ground. He wasn't happy at all last week in the wet conditions, and you can see the improvement this week as he comes under Steve Bastable on the second bend there. So at the present moment it's David Blackburn leading, Steve Bastable and Nigel Crabtree. Well, in the background, Martin McKenna has disappeared with some problems. He certainly was having problems with his bike before the start of the meeting, and maybe some of the gremlins have crept in into heat number 3. But David Blackburn quite comfortable on this track this week, riding his familiar centre of the track line there. And he comes home for a comfortable 3 points for the 261 Tigers. In second place, Steve Bastable, and in third place, Nigel Crabtree. Again, the points divided 3-all, which means that the scores stay level at 9 points apiece. Very entertaining Stoke team tonight here at Shawfield, Glasgow. 2 of Speedway's newest champions, the Speedway Pairs National League champions, fresh from their track staff success at Poole this week. Steve, if I could turn to you first of all, if we're to be honest, you weren't even quoted in the pre-meeting forecast. Did this maybe take the pressure off you somewhat while the favourites were keeping an eye on one another at Poole?
Oh yeah, that's right. I had no pressure on myself. Really, I didn't even know which partner I was going to have until the night, because Graham hadn't even been put in until then. It was nice, just go in there, nice and relaxed, and went out there and showed them.
Was it a case that after you fought your way through a fairly tough first round against Hackney, Middlesbrough and Rye House, you began to see the glint of silver, or did that maybe come later in the meeting?
Not really, because it's such a hard format. Just to get through the semi-finals, you know, you've got to ride well all the way through. We thought we'd done well just getting into the final, and we went out there to enjoy ourselves, really.
Graham, can I turn to you? The final race against Poole themselves on their home ground, what were the tactics for that particular race?
Get out of the gate and go, I reckon. We won the toss and we picked the favoured gates. We had 1 and 3. Gate 4 was a little bit rubbish towards the end of the meeting. Just the odd person was getting out of it. But we had the favoured gates. And really the tapes went up. We came out of second bend. I think I made the gate and came out of second bend, and Steve was alongside me. And boy, we didn't hang around. We just kept going and kept going, because I mean, Stevie Schofield really flies around there, and same goes for David Biles. We just kept going and hope and pray the bikes would keep going, and that was it. We just won it, you know.
Now, apart from your own performances with Stoke, you've been returning double figures recently at Bellevue and Wolverhampton. What's made everything come so right in recent weeks?
I don't know. I've got a very good sponsor in Mistral, and he buys me bikes. I mean, my bikes are really good. I think maybe I've improved a little bit. I'm getting out of the gate a lot more consistent than I used to. I don't really know. I suppose it's a lot of factors all pointing down together. You know, I'm a little bit more confident than I used to be. But I don't really know. You just sort of try and will yourself out the gate, and you take it from there, you know.
Everything's come right. Do you now see yourself with a realistic chance of capturing the National League Riders' Championship next month?
I'll be going for it. Obviously on the day, I mean, you've got to put 5 good races together. You've got to beat everybody there. I mean, one little mistake can lose you the title. I'm not really thinking about it yet, because I've got 2 or 3 more meetings left with Stoke yet. When I've had my last meeting with Stoke, then I'll think about the National League Riders, and I'll be going there, and I'll be going there to give it my best. And if my best is good enough, then maybe I might get on the rostrum, but I'll try.
Steve, if I can come back to you just finally on a different vein and ask you, you've returned to Stoke this year, the team you began your career with some 13 years ago. Our own Kenny McKenna faced quite a surprise in his return to National League. How do you find the standards compare between your previous National League spell and this year?
Oh yes, National League can't be compared with the old second division now. I mean, the racing is so competitive anyway. It's a very good professional division. I don't think there's any difference really from British League. Yep.
Steve, Graham, National League champions, pairs, very well done, every success, and may we congratulate Stoke for their performance here this evening, for taking a part in a very entertaining match.
Say before you unwind, the stadium, the track and everything is superb. The crowd, well, you've got thousands of them, it seems to be. It's very good, very good. I hope they keep coming through the turnstile for you. Very good.
Thank you very much, Graham. It's very much appreciated.
Okay, cheers.
In the red helmet for Glasgow, Shane Bowes, partnered in blue by Jeff Powell. For the Eastbourne Woodham Eagles, it's Darren Standing in white and David Norris in yellow and black. And David Norris there in yellow and black, another teenage product of the Eastbourne very successful youth training scheme. Just on to track for the Eastbourne Eagles in the last couple of weeks here, but already becoming the sensation of the league. A bit of barging there as they come out of the third bend between young Darren Standing and David Norris. And in fact, both bikes touch again there, and it's the one Eagle who brings down the other. I don't know what the referee's opinion of that will be, and if we look to the right and we see that his opinion was that David Norris caused the accident by running into the back of his fellow companion, young Darren Standing. If they hope to take the 2 points from the Eastbourne Eagles tonight, they could be heading for another Heat 16 boiler, which we've had in the last 2 or 3 weeks here at Shawfield. So let's see how the 261 Tigers fare in Heat 15. And what better start could you ask for than that, as the 2 Tigers sweep to the front there. Kenny McKenna and David Blackburn. And as we saw Gordon Kennett doing earlier, Kenny McKenna looking over his shoulder there just to see who's behind him. And I'm quite sure that Kenny McKenna will sit and nurse David Blackburn home. Well, at the present moment, David's under quite a bit of pressure. The man in the white helmet, Andy Buck. He's been doing a lot of damage and scoring a lot of points tonight. So Kenny McKenna still well out from front, but still very, very dicey and dodgy for David Blackburn. He can't afford to make any mistakes whatsoever. Kenny just glancing back over his shoulders to see if his partner's okay. He's really leading David to ride his familiar centre of the track line there, but you see what's happening. With riding the centre of the track, it leaves gaps up the inside, which Andy Buck's fighting fiercely for, and it's going to go all the way to the line. And David Blackburn makes it, but he didn't make it with much to spare there with that late challenge from Andy Buck. So that was really a big win for the Tigers there. They had to do something special in heat 15, and by goodness didn't they do it. 3 points to Kenny McKenna, 2 points to David Blackburn, and a single point to the Eastbourne Eagles. No wonder Kenny McKenna celebrates with a relay there, because that virtually ties, in fact it does tie up the match for the 261 Tigers. And doesn't he know it? We'll no doubt have another one from Kenny. Yes, there he goes. And team manager Jim McMillan trying to ring the changes again, and he brings in as a tactical substitute in white Troy Butler. He's partnered by Mark Carlson in yellow and black, while the opposition provided by the home team is in the form of Steve Lawson in red and Phil Jeffrey in blue. So it's another appearance of the National League Riders champion. We're obviously looking forward to Heat 11, where he meets up with Kenny McKenna, and that should be quite a race. But let's look forward to Heat 10 first of all. And Heat 10 taking the lead, it is indeed Troy Butler, and at the present moment holding the second spot is Mark Carlson. Steve Lawson pushed back into third place at the present moment, but making a very, very strong challenge for that second placing. Trying to take that unfamiliar outside line there for Steve. He normally sticks to that inside line and tries to overtake on the inside. But Troy Butler in trouble, and down he tumbles. And Phil Jeffrey caught there. Didn't see exactly if he had enough space on the inside there, and he was starting to lay down. And fortunately avoided Troy Butler there, although Troy is lying in the back there in pain. And it brings out Phil Jeffrey in red, partnered by Shane Bowes in blue, Ian Clark in white, and Ali Stevens in yellow and black provide the opposition for the Milton Keynes Knights. Apart from that engine failure in his second race, Shane Bowes having yet another fine night here at Shawfield. The young Australian finding his feet here very much, and really come into a good run of form in the latter part of the season. A very useful acquisition of the 261 Tigers. And the young Shane Bowes and Milton Keynes' Ali Stevens, who are involved in a tussle there for the second and third placings. And his young Shane's not all that far behind the rider in yellow and black, Ali Stevens. And making a strong challenge on the outside there, coming into the third and fourth bends. Very, very tight race, one of the best of the night so far, as 3 riders closely contesting first, second and third place. She moves in and tries the inside line and just blocks out the attempt of Ian Clark to cut the inside. Ali Stevens still holding it, but under severe pressure from Shane Bowes. He's pushing him all the way. Just drifting a little wide there. If he'd kept that a bit tighter to the inside, Shane would have been in a position to challenge in the third and fourth bends, I'm sure. But he takes the wide outside line again to lock back and come up on the inside and try the run down to the tapes and just misses it. Now that was a fine race in Heat 14. The winner, Ali Stevens in yellow and black. Second place, Shane Bowes. Heat 8, and it's Phil Jeffrey coming out in the red helmet on this occasion to partner Jeff Powell in blue. For the Panthers, it's Kevin Hawkins in white and Scott Norman in yellow and black. Who's going to come out on top after the first bend here, and yet again it's the Panthers. They hold down first and second placings, with Phil Jeffrey being left to do the chasing. But the Panthers getting into trouble there in that fourth bend, almost bringing each other down as they drifted wide and drifted into each other's path. And yet again the Panthers throwing their bikes wildly around here, Scott Norman seemed to lose something off the back of the bike there, whether it was a chain guard or not, but it certainly threw him off course when he saw the result there. And this is really a tough, tight race in heat number 8. So Phil Jeffrey makes it to the front, and the back is still far, far from settled. Jeff Powell throwing the bike in there and throwing it in underneath the struggling Scott Norman. As Scott Norman comes back again. Oh goodness, this is one of the best races we've seen this year at Shawfield. Bikes flying all over the place, riders swapping places back and forward. Wonderful Jeffrey up the front there, realising just what's happening at the back there as they race for the line there, and it's Scott Norman who makes it in second place, and it's Jeff Powell who just creeps in there for that third point. That was a tremendous race for 4 laps there between the 3 riders at the back. And let's not forget Phil Jeffrey, who did himself come from the back after the 2 Panthers riders got in trouble there. Heat 15, and hitting right back, Ken Matthews, the Skoda Panthers team manager, brings in 2 tactical substitutes in the form of Mick Poole in white and Craig Hodgson in yellow and black, and the opposition is provided by Kenny McKenna and David Blackburn. And remember, this strong home pairing didn't fare too well in Heat 13, in fact only 2 points from the 2 home riders. And there was another tough and fearsome first bend with no quarter asked and no quarter given. And this fight's continuing right down the back straight there, but Kenny McKenna in trouble, and under the fence there, trapped under the boards. And he's not moving as we wait for the track staff running towards him. It could be, we hope, that he's just trapped under the fence boards there, but he went down quite hard in that very, very strong challenge in the third bend. At 261 Tigers home at Glasgow was a surprise but nonetheless extremely welcome visit from the world champion Eric Gundersen. Eric, welcome to Shawfield, and can I say a belated but nonetheless sincere congratulations on your 3rd world championship. But what brings you to Scotland tonight?
Well, I've been up to see Mark Courtney up at Berwick, and I've stayed up there a couple of days. We've been out doing a bit of clay pigeon shooting, and I've just had a little break from all the racing that I've been doing over the last 2 weeks, and it's been great. And we decided to come up here with David Blackburn today, and I've really enjoyed it here. It's the first time I've been to the new Glasgow Speedway track, and I really enjoyed it.
Good. Fortunately, we were able to provide you with an excellent match here tonight, Eric. I was going to ask you anyway, what do you think of the racing here and of Scotland's newest venue here at Shawfield?
I think the track could be a little bit wider, although there was 3 or 4 really good heats where there was a lot of good passings in. I think if you widen the track you would see more passing, and I spoke to Dick Barry and he said he was going to maybe work on that over the winter, and I think you could do with that here.
Yes. Eric, it would be remiss if we didn't ask you a couple of questions about the World Championships itself, and personally it appeared to me that you were playing the run-up to the World Championships this year rather low-key. Was this a deliberate policy on your part this year?
Well, it's hard to keep your momentum going for the whole of the season, and I every year I try to get the last month up to the World Final going as good as I can. You know, we've been experimenting a bit over the last couple of months, and I just hit the form the right time. I feel the last 3 weeks before the World Final I was scoring maximums for Craig, and I was having really good open meetings on the continent, and everything just went well for me on the night. I'd been working on this all year, especially being in Denmark. The World Final this year was very special for the Danes involved, and of course it was a nice one to win.
Yes. Unfortunately, the track conditions in Denmark, Eric, could hardly be described as ideal. Did this cause any last-minute hitch in the plans for the championships?
Not really, because when you're in a World Final, you know everything can happen, and I went out there just determined to win. Had it been dry or wet, for me it didn't matter anything. I was prepared for anything.
Yes. The run-off against Hans Nielsen, your closest rival in probably one of the most crucial matches of your career. What was your battle plan for that particular race?
Well, we've met before in a run-off for the World Final Championship in Bradford in '85, and you know I felt that on the night I could beat him again. I beat him earlier on in the meeting, and I was so full of confidence, and I just went out there and did my best and pulled off the win.
Yeah.
This is heat 10, and we've got perhaps the Edinburgh side's most compact pairing here, Brett Saunders and Scott Lamb, up against Steve Lawson and Phil Jeffrey for the Tigers. It's Saunders, Lawson, Lamb and Jeffrey from the inside. And it looks like Saunders, a good start for Brett Saunders. And once again Lamb and Jeffrey clash and both come down. So we'll see what the referee makes of that one. Phil Jeffrey came tearing across there. Goodness knows what he had in mind. I certainly think that was first bend bunching that time, but we'll see what the referee says. Rerun, and all four riders right enough, so we might have another interesting first bend, I should think. Brett Saunders certainly made a good start in the first running. Steve Lawson was out practicing off that gate too, hoping to get away a bit quicker. And it's Lawson and Saunders, but Saunders harder into the first corner, but Lawson cleverly round the line as Saunders was contesting with Phil Jeffrey, and Jeffrey coming inside Brett Saunders there, and now Saunders slides off. So once again the referee's going to have to make a ruling on that one, and that didn't look too dissimilar from the incident between Scott Lamb and Phil Jeffrey. So we'll see what the referee says there. And this heat is proving quite an incident-packed one indeed. The conditions gradually worsening, this meeting has ground to a halt. We haven't actually had the official referee's decision yet, unbelievably, but the fans are drifting out of the stadium, so we're afraid that's all this afternoon. There's not going to be any more racing, and there's considerable disagreement between the two camps. Rather a sad ending to what was a pretty good speedway meeting. But I think now we can see that conditions are not suitable for racing. There go some of the fans, and that's it. Edinburgh will be back here in a week or two's time. I don't think the date's been finally decided, but the National League match between Edinburgh and Glasgow will be restaged within the next couple of weeks, and that's all we can say as we leave a very wet Shawfield Stadium.
And in Heat 11 it's Kenny McKenna in red with his partner Jeff Powell in blue. For the Federation Bandits it's second in the trot for Rob Grant, and in yellow and black Sean Courtney. That was another tough first bend there, and Rob Grant and Kenny McKenna involved in the action. Kenny McKenna having to swing pretty wide on that first bend to avoid the bike of Rob Grant, and the crowd not just too pleased at all about that action. They reckon that Rob was just a little too rough and tough on the home rider there. But Kenny McKenna fighting back. Sean Courtney holding the lead at the present moment, but Kenny McKenna fighting to gain at least 2 points for the 261 Tigers. Trying to swing underneath Rob Grant as they come out of the fourth bend. As I say, he's one of the hardest men in the National League to pass when he gets in front of you. That bike's thrown all over the track with Rob Grant, and he has the strength to push it around and impose his authority. But Kenny McKenna certainly hasn't given up, and in fact he's maybe just trying a little too hard there. And I don't think Kenny's hurt as he lies in the track there. I think that's more than exasperation as he tumbles as he tried to chase Rob Grant and come under him in heat number 11. So heat 13, and reputations to be salvaged and maybe a few points to be pulled back for the Tigers. They've an awful lot of work to do if they're going to be anything over the last four heats. So it's down to Kenny McKenna and David Blackburn, the strongest pairing in the 261 Tigers team, against Mark Courtney in white and Steve McDermott in yellow and black. The Back come the Tigers fighting as they move into the first and second placings, with Kenny McKenna and David Blackburn, and Mark Courtney being left to do the chasing in third place. Kenny McKenna being given the honour he thoroughly deserves this year of captain of the National League squad for the series against the Australians. But it's his partner David Blackburn who's left to do all the tussling here. The bike certainly is still not over for the second and third placings. It looked fairly secure in the first lap, but back comes Mark Courtney, determined to give it a try right to the very end. Certainly slipped the leash and he's off and away, but David Blackburn, his partner, is still under very strong pressure, and it's only the fact of David's riding line down the centre of the track which is holding things. But can he make it to the line here? He does, and only by about half a bike's length. A very, very close one in heat 13, and a very useful 5-1 to the 261 Tigers.
And on the inside, and we hear he's riding brother Kenny's bike, so he should shift some. Scott Lamb again in gate 2 for the Novaphone Monarchs. Gate 3 is Jeff Powell for the Tigers, and on the outside Tony Rizzo in his second league match of the season for Edinburgh, and in the first one he scored paid 10 at home last Friday. It looks like Martin McKenna though off the inside gate on that flying machine of his big brothers. He's hit the front, Scott Lamb's in second, and Jeff Powell third. So the Tigers holding the advantage here, and Martin McKenna really shifting on that bike. Scott Lamb's done very well for Edinburgh in his visits here. Tony Ritzer rather tailed off. Scott Lamb not giving up the chase by any means. Just about 5 yards between these two up front. Not quite as much grip on the Glasgow track as there normally is. Track preparation becomes considerably more difficult at this late time of year. And the Tigers have done well. It's a smooth circuit, but grip not quite what it might have been perhaps earlier in this season. Martin McKenna's going to win this one. A fine ride by Martin, who hasn't had the best of seasons. Scott Lamb second and Jeff Powell third, so the 261 Tigers take the lead by 7 points to 5 after 2 races. Saunders on the inside again, coming up for his 6th ride, and he's got 13 points so far. Shane Bowes in gate 2 for the 261 Tigers. Unfortunately, Scott Lamb not fit, and Tony Rizzo comes in to replace him, and on the outside it's Martin McKenna for the Tigers. And Brett Saunders, best away there, he sweeps into the first corner, and oh dear, he clips Shane Bowes, and down comes Martin McKenna, and that looked as though it could be a nasty one. Martin McKenna flew through the air there, and he's lying at the side of the track there. I wouldn't say anyone was to blame for that. It was just first spin bunching, I would say, but we'll see what the referee's decision is in a moment. We can hear, I think, who the Tigers fans blame, but I think that's rather unfair. 6-1 Tigers just might clinch the points. Rob Woffenden there on the inside for the Novaphone Monarchs. His partner is Tony Rizzo, who replaces Jamie Luckhurst, and Jamie not willing to come out for this one apparently. For the 261 Tigers, Kenny McKenna and David Blackburn. Tigers looking for a 4-2 here at least to clinch the National League points. And Tony Rizzo completely fails to start. Rob Woffenden, a decent start from the inside, but the two Tigers I think have gone past them. They have now. A great row around the stadium. Kenny McKenna moves into second place behind his partner David Blackburn, and that can't really be considered a surprise. Bit of a discussion before the race between Tony Rizzo and the machine examiner. Bit of a disagreement we might call it, but Tony well at the rear anyway. And this is going to be the match-winning 5-1, I think. It's been quite a match. It certainly looked in the early stages as though the Tigers were going to stroll it, but with Brett Saunders and Scott Lamb going so well for the Novaphone Monarchs, they came back into it. Scott Lamb then injured, and that I think has perhaps been the decisive factor in the end. But the Tigers, I think, deserve their victory, assuming that we're not speaking too soon there. These two look very comfortable indeed. There's no real challenge at all coming from Rob Woffenden, who hasn't proved himself much of a Shawfield expert in his visits here. So these two will get a great roar as they cross the line. David Blackburn wins. Kenny McKenna wheeling home in second place. And that 5-1 clinches the points for the 261 Tigers. They move into a 49-40 lead with one race remaining. And there's nothing the Monarchs can do about it now. And there's the wheelie king, Kenny McKenna, celebrating the 261 Tigers victory.
The Glasgow promotion for bringing me through here at the start of the season. Then of course my sponsors for all their help during the season, and Bill, my mechanic in the pits.
I would just like to thank everybody that helped me this year, and I hope I'll be back next year. Thank you.
I couldn't be here tonight, but I think he's hibernating. I'd like to start with thanking the supporters that helped me in all the away trips. If I single out some like Fraser Payton, Tommy Stubbings and all the boys, and also Charles and Kenneth McKenna, who both at one stage of the season lent me engines. I'd like to thank them very much. My mechanic David Castells, and all my teammates for making it such an enjoyable season. Thanks very much.
The supporters club for the assistance and support they've given the riders during the season. I think they've done an excellent job. I'd like to thank all the riders, seniors and juniors, who've ridden for the team so well and generally behaved themselves most of the time. I also must thank Alan McDade, who helped me a lot with the programme, both before and during the season. It was certainly an experience, not always enjoyable, but I think we've learned quite a lot. I won't say anything too controversial, but I'm sure 1989 can be even better than 1988. Thanks very much.
I'd like to thank the 88 promotion, who obviously may not be the 89 promotion now. They did a fantastic job, and I think all the team were very, very proud to ride for what we considered the best promotion in the country. I'd like to thank everyone that's helped us over the years, certainly over this year especially. We've had a tremendous year team-wise. I think the supporters have certainly very, very good value for money. I don't know what's going to happen next year. In my heart, I'm a Glasgow rider, so let's see what happens next year. Thank you.
I'm not quite sure what to say, so probably better not to say too much. First of all, thanks very much. It doesn't take much to show appreciation, and this is certainly more than enough. Thanks very much to the Supporters Club and the committee for inviting me along tonight, and I certainly hope to enjoy the rest of the evening. Thanks.
The Glasgow Tigers Speedway Supporters Club, looking at you, I remember the AGM in January, and we pointed out then that there was 54 or 64 members of the Supporters Club in 1987, and I know that there's over 700 members, and they all seem to be here tonight, which just is a marvellous thing for Glasgow and for the city and for the Speedway. I'd like to thank the Glasgow Tigers Speedway Supporters Club for this memento, which was totally unexpected and therefore is totally accepted as something marvellous. I've never had anything from them before except abuse. Over the years, you understand, nothing personal. I'd like to thank everybody who helped the promotion in 87, and I'd like to wish everybody who will be promoting in 80, no, I've got it wrong, haven't I? Just move it on a year. I'd like to thank everyone in 88, and I'd like to wish everyone who will be promoting in 89 the very best of luck. Thanks.
This wee presentation I've received, and all the supporters, all many helped to make Glasgow successful this season. and I think we can go on from one success to another success next season. There are a few things I would like to say for the future, but it's just too early yet. But have no fear, Glasgow will be here.
Sorry I can't be here tonight, but plans for a holiday were already made before the dates for your dance were arranged. I've always enjoyed end of season bands, and I wish I could be here. At least I get out of making a speech, not one of my favourite pastimes. One day I won't be missing though is the first match next season. Hope to see you all there. Thanks for your support and generosity throughout this great season. The best is yet to come. Steve.